why is love so hard to find for a lot of people?
There was no social media a long time ago. There's less effort done to try to resolve.
Too many fish in the sea. Like if I'm someone who is below average looking and I want to find love.
Put yourself in a situation where you socialize.
Is that the algorithm starts taking over. It becomes an algorithm rather than a human being with emotions.
But if you're not seeing the people, you will face loneliness.
Yes.
And you will face anxiety.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Anything Everything podcast. Andrea, good to have you here.
I'm pleased to be here with you guys.
Nowadays, and I don't know if it's been the case historically, but why is love so hard to find for a lot of people?
Big question, huh?
Yeah.
So there's several factors and criteria that come into play today. First, how do we define love? What's love? Are we talking about a marriage or are we talking about deeper connection?
I mean, deeper connection that could lead to marriage, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, first, I want to make sure that we're not generalizing, but we notice trends that 10, 20, 30 years ago, first there was a difference in the way the genders were present. Women didn't have the same career path as men. Men were providers, women were more on the supporting emotional front. Today there's an increase of push for individualism.
For women.
Women, so I'll shift. So now for both genders, mental health, well-being. So it's important that you feel well. It's important that, do what suits you. Think about yourself, prioritize yourself, which is amazing, right? But we're forgetting that in love, there's also conflict that comes. A relationship does not exist without conflict. And so there's a lack of education on the fact that how do we resolve conflict in a healthy way? How do we define what is healthy communication? So we are taught about studies and, career and success, but what about building healthy relationships?
Yeah.
Right? Because now, so there's less room for compromise, be it from men and women versus their well-being. Second, women are much more successful and they feel empowered. And we moved from feeling very low in power to feeling much more empowered. And so there's this a bit of a, also sometimes toxic way of saying, I don't need you, right? And it goes into a kind of dynamic where the man goes into defensive mode and it creates this kind of dynamic where it separates people from real intimacy, coming more from a vulnerable side, right? And a third thing, very important criteria is there was no social media a long time ago. There was no social media. So today, first we avoid having the hard conversation. It's so easy, right? I'm tired, I don't have the patience, I just go on Instagram, we're talking to the person, we don't even look in the eyes. There's less effort done to try to resolve, to put the effort in that because, we're on the go, there's work, both are busy, you come back, you just avoid.
Yeah.
And there's more options, which is also creating this sense of what do I want? I think today there's an opportunity in people understanding themselves. Who am I? What do I value? What do I value in a partner?
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. It just seems the formula is all over the place from what I'm taking from
There's
you.
a lot of factors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors. But individualism, the push for, which is, I'll call it individualism, but they're pushing for mental health and well-being. But this is actually conflicting with also sometimes wanting to lean into having hard conversations.
Yeah.
So it's taking away some of the attention from the core message. And let's talk about, relationships and how you were saying there's a difficulty in starting relationships. And I feel like there's like 3 levels that we can go across. Relationships start organically, right? Meeting someone in the mall, meeting with friends. Yeah. So that's one aspect, friends of friends, through applications and social media, as you rightly said, which is a whole other world. And then thirdly, arranged marriages. So maybe let's look at each of these and see where the difficulty arises and how the dynamic has kind of flipped. Where would you like to start?
Okay, there's too much information.
We can start with the apps, right? Like, how do you feel about dating apps as a method to find true meaningful connection? Because it feels like, to me at least, these apps just really objectify the opposite sex for the most part. It's about the looks, and then there's a bit of back and forth on social media, but then is it all about the aesthetics? Does it become just about that? What are your feelings on it?
So I'll say 2 things. with the rise of the digital world, apps are not anymore something madness. So I even work with people who are, even women, who are working so much, they're in consulting in Europe, and they actually end up, because they have no time to go and socialize, and they end up going on apps, and they're serious. I'm not talking about men here, I'm talking about women, and they're serious. They get disappointed, obviously, because yes, as you said, many men or women, depend. There is first the positioning of the app. There's different apps. The identity associated with that app that gives a mindset. When I'm going on that app, is it, am I going to just have fun? I just want to meet someone. Yeah, exactly. Or just have a one-night stand. Or am I looking for something deeper? I know people who got married through a platform called Bumble. I know 2 couples. Okay. So I think there's a lot about the mindset where even a man who goes on that platform is in a mindset of meeting someone more serious with whom he shares more values. While maybe if they're going on Tinder, they're in a different mindset where I just want to flirt and have fun. So I think the positioning of the app and the mindset of the person makes a huge difference. Though, of course, it is less charming than to meet someone organically, but we are unfortunately having less time and moving into digital. I'm not saying this is the way to go. I haven't used apps myself, but for some people who are feeling so stuck with time, so limited, it could be a way, but just choose your app.
Yeah.
On your point, and it's not that the app by itself is net negative or positive. It's a tool ultimately, and as you were saying, it's the intention behind it. What is somebody using this app for? What I'm just putting it out there is that part of the point that you mentioned is that there's maybe tension or difficulty in developing long-lasting relationships when people use the app like a shopping cart.
Yeah, too many fish in the sea.
Exactly, for men and women, right? Because they both have plenty of options, and perhaps that creates friction between taking a risk and staying with the conflict of this relationship with this gentleman or this woman, that I can fix it, but there's someone better. The grass is always greener.
Yeah. So I know some people who said when they found something and it's clicking, they just shut down the app.
Amazing.
Just to give it a full. Yeah, because otherwise it can get very tricky to end up dating multiple at the same time. And
do you think that reflects the majority or minority of people?
I don't have much information about it, but yes, I am aware that it becomes like a fishing card where you just, you're clicking. And as you said, it creates this objectification, just you're judging someone just on a picture.
Like if I'm someone who is below average looking and I want to find love, right? I don't have someone who I feel that connection with. The problem with these apps, from what I hear, a lot of the people, like men especially, that try to get on these apps to meet women just fail, and they just have a miserable experience because they're not getting matches, and that the women go for the top 10 or 20% of men. So the top echelon of men aesthetically, and probably as well whether they have money or not, are the ones that are getting the matches, whereas the rest of men, probably 80-70% of them, barely get any matches and don't have that chance to get going. So how do you feel about that being kind of a blocker to them being able to actually find someone? It's so disheartening, I would feel, to be in that position.
Absolutely, because I think you associate your value to just your physical aspect. I mean, from what you're saying now, I realize that these apps are just, your value or the interest in you or in others is just associated with the picture you put, which sometimes doesn't even look like the real person.
Exactly.
So that's not healthy because we're losing the chemistry, the energy that we have when you meet someone, right? When you're able to have a conversation, when you meet randomly someone in the mall or in the lift or in a bar or in a dinner through other friends, and you end up having a 3 hours conversation and you don't understand how is that happening, and so we're losing the art of conversation, right?
So what would you advise someone who is in that position to do?
I think to actually follow more who they are, to connect with who they are. What do they like? What are they? So instead of staying, in your home behind your screen, just get out, meet people, do the activities you like. Do you like cinema? Go do a class of cinematography. You may meet someone you share same interest with. You like traveling? Just plan a trip. Go with a group. You like painting? Go ahead. You like yoga? It's just really put yourself in a situation where you socialize. And I think COVID really stop that.
Yeah, the
It
pandemic
minimized
really,
that.
yeah.
And I'll tell you, like, I remember after COVID, I was traumatized to go to a common class or to go to the gym because I was like always thinking about the particles that, and it really impacted us, right?
Definitely.
And some people got new habits, which were much more to be in their...
Cocooned.
Yeah. So I'd say break out of this cocoon and just meet. And you never know how one thing leads to another, and you may end up meeting people.
To your point, teachers noted that after the pandemic and when students came back to school, their social skills almost got eroded because they just got used to flicking through and looking at the course online. Especially as children, we're not we're adults, and people much older maybe don't face that much issues. But children in their developmental stage, at that age, teens and adolescents, they need that social cohesion. They need their friends.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important that we say like that a baby goes to a kindergarten because they need to interact with other babies rather than, a psychologist was saying, a French psychologist, I forgot the name, that she was seeing kids of 6 years old who have a mental development of 2 years because they got so used of being behind these screens. So they're not faced with solving something, with, thinking.
Yeah.
Social interactions, activity.
It's an important muscle to exercise, especially if you want to meet people. And if the apps aren't working for you, you need to go exercise that socializing muscle. Because I know for a fact that, maybe aesthetically on the apps you're not getting the matches, but if you're really confident in who you are and you put yourself out there, you will find someone, because there are people that are looking as well.
Absolutely. And what brings in this confidence? Because staying behind your screen, your body is not moving, and there's a somatic energy as well. While when you're tapping into going there, going to the beach, going to that class, meeting people, seeing an energy, there's confidence that's going to arise. First, by nurturing and honoring your values of what you enjoy. You are already building that confidence, and your energy is going to also attract someone who's on the same vibe.
Yeah,
absolutely. One of the instances where society is creating a new avenue is the rise of offline clubs. I don't know if you're aware of this. Dubai now, there's going to be an offline meeting in about a week or so. It started off in Amsterdam, other major cities in Europe. No phones. You hand your phone to the organizers of the cafe, and you get a book, or a notebook. You read, write, or talk.
Yeah.
Just get people together, which is our basic nature.
No screens allowed.
Absolutely. That's great. I was reading a post last time, like, how would our lives look if social media shuts off at 6 p.m.? Yeah,
and I think that's one of the big problems around why it's harder now to meet people, because the people, especially from a male perspective is what I'm talking about, like the people who are in the upper echelons of males just have so many options on the apps, whereas the lower, the less lucky individuals have a much more difficult time, and it could be so disheartening to the point where they just don't go out and try to meet someone.
And I'm curious, what if these apps were not available?
I mean, society functioned without them, right?
Exactly.
People were meeting,
100%. Look, there's always going to be friction when there's a major change like that. But then there's this idea that people and groups self-organize. They find other ways to keep going. It's like if you're driving on a road and the road gets shut, you'll find another path to your destination.
100%.
It's the same kind of idea. There is friction. You're going to go like, I'm stuck in traffic now. What do I do? Then you're like, I can change. I can change my route.
There's the shift in perspective.
Yeah. Oh, there.
But I wonder if the fact that these apps came about was a net negative to forming meaningful romantic relationships versus net positive. Because I think the idea initially behind them was a net positive. Like, they wanted people to meet, they wanted relationships to happen.
Absolutely.
But then what happens later is that the algorithm starts taking over. It becomes an algorithm rather than a human being with emotions that tries to make money for the app. And for the app to make money, users need to stick to the app. And to click. So finding a romantic relationship, if I meet someone, and I fall in love with them and we get married, or I'm not going to be using Tinder anymore. So that's less money for them.
It changed the incentive.
It changed the incentive.
Absolutely.
The use of these apps again, we're talking that the existence of these apps is a natural byproduct of a capitalistic society that is looking to commoditize anything and everything.
Yeah.
And that's, an ode to the name of the podcast. But my point is that I think, this is just an opinion I'm come up with, is that they've made the journey of, let's say, love deep relationships, with quotes, efficient but not effective. It's very efficient because open the app, select, look, click. So they've made a journey that's efficient, but it's not effective because it's not creating deeper relationships and it needs you to stay on the app.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I link it with the fact that we are associating that a digital connection is a deep connection. You talk about deep and meaningful connection. And we have an illusion. And what proved it is COVID. Because it was not only with romantic relationship, but we proved that you can be constantly connected on your phone, but if you're not seeing the people, you will face loneliness and you will face anxiety. So that
even if you're video calling.
Absolutely. So this confirmed the fact that, going to your point, being on an app on one hand is not developing meaningful connections, and on the second, even if they were trying to help you meet more people, you end up, clicking more, but actually you're not developing something deeper.
Yeah. So if you're someone having trouble with apps, try putting yourself out there. That's probably the way to go. How do you feel about arranged marriages? Like if you meet someone that you haven't met before and suddenly you're married to them. A lot of cultures put a lot of emphasis on arranged marriages, and divorce rates are lower than with traditional marriages, which is a really interesting point. But just to go about the fact that, how do you feel about meeting someone for a romantic relationship as an arranged thing rather than an organic one?
So first, I feel that it's dropping because, again, we're going into more people being a choice, women and men, but I'm sure some cultures have it. Yes, they do have a rate which is not quite a high rate in success. Why? I believe, one, there's less expectations. And we don't have the infatuation that, and I'm not saying any happy marriage just have infatuation. It can sometimes be very low. But any kind of real love starts with this, this high in love. And here it comes more like, as normal. There's a certain acceptance and getting to know the person with an expectation that it's how it is. We're in it, And there's a certain level of adaptation to the other and seeing what's the best in the other. And also, given that it's an arranged marriage, maybe there's some common values with the families that could increase that. And there's a say in Arabic that says, like, you get to learn to love.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, again, we're generalizing, right? Some people may not be respecting one another. We don't know. But if there is this certain level of respect, you end up, appreciating things because you have no expectations. It's not like when you love someone where there's a certain expectations and needs that you want to be met.
Yeah.
Here you may be, so you're less charged emotionally, and it develops by also getting to know each other, expressing your needs, understanding.
It's much easier to tap into the rational brain in that sense. At the beginning.
And then it can transform and shift into more of this appreciation and love that is built.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and obviously it differs by cultures.
Obviously.
Like between Arab to like Indian, for example, or Pakistani, huge differences.
Yeah.
But it seems like, again, just to kind of like summarize, it's like they do the dating after they get married in a way and get to know each other.
Yeah.
And that's the period of like there's sparks and really figuring out the person.
Yeah.
But transitioning a little bit. So how do...
And I think there's no choice. It's as if there's no... In an arranged marriage, it's as if I'm in...
That's it. For better or for worse. There's no... That's it.
It's a coin flip, ultimately.
Versus a marriage where you're deciding, where you're going to have doubts, where you're going to wonder, where you're going to get anxious, you're going to get happy, you're going to...
Yeah. So there are ways in which it's easier, I guess, for an arranged
some,
marriage. Yeah.
And I think it really works when there is shared values.
Yeah.
And yes, maybe they don't even know initially, but it's a matter of luck, I'd say. Like, if there is a certain shared values and vision, because they have the same vision, right? They know they're both in for marriage and for kids, etc. Okay, but it's about also like the values and feeling appreciated, feeling seen, feeling loved.
Yeah. Great points. All right. I think this is where we wrap up.
Yeah, I think that was great. We covered a lot of things and maybe open different avenues for later. So
Absolutely.
Great having you, Andrea. Amazing conversation.
Thank you.
As always, like and
Pleasure.
subscribe. Thank you for watching.